Fantastic. Fantastic. And again, thank you, Dr. Thomas, and your entire leadership team at Piedmont SCORE and all the volunteers. So my teammates and I at the Clemson Small Business Development Center really enjoy our partnership. I honestly think it's part of our secret sauce in the upstate of South Carolina is how we work together in support of the for-profit small business sector. And really, this is really a special honor to get a chance to work with you. Hey guys, welcome. We had a little over, I think Dr. Thomas had shared with me earlier, we had 50 registrants for the session. I see there's only, I think, 14 or so on the call. So we may have some folks zooming in with us in progress. It's not a problem. They can kind of come in as they can and jump in. And then we'll have some time at the back end to share any questions and absorb any comments. And of course, our presentation will be shared with you, as Dr. Thomas mentioned, in an email recap. This evening, we're going to cover really three objectives. First, introduce a little more about our South Carolina Small Business Development Centers, the consortium that I'm a part of and my teammates are part of, and also our friends at SCORE, the entity and our strategic partner that my friend Dr. Thomas represents. Secondly, we're going to really drill in a little more time on framing the value of starting a small business in an intentional, process-driven manner. So we're going to really share our preferred process to starting a business. And but more than share that, we're going to really be respectful of you and actually share why. And that's going to be the bulk of our time together. And then finally, as we conclude, we're going to actually share with how you can engage and leverage the no-cost support that Dr. Thomas references. You guys decide to move forward in your journey with starting your small business, if you do decide to move forward. Here it is. So again, a little more about our SBDC and about SCORE. The bottom line is this: what's the issue? What's the problem? Well, if you look on the right-hand side of your screen, 3 in 10. So, and honestly, it's less than 3 in 10. This is long-term, 4 decades of data and counting. 4 decades and counting. Small business advocacy data suggests fewer than 3 in 10 small businesses started in the U.S., the most fertile environment for entrepreneurship in the world. It could be, I'm comfortable saying it could be argued, but only less than 3 in 10 celebrate a 10-year anniversary. Here's the key. What's the issues? And primarily, if you look on the left side of your screen, as I'm going to prompt with my prompt, a lack of understanding or clarity of who the target market is. We have folks come to us day in and day out looking to start a business, and we'll say, look, hey, why are you looking to start a business? We may hear things and we may ask, hey, who is your market? We may hear things such that everybody's my market. Well, we need to have a discussion there, because everybody's not your market. So that lack of clarity, honestly, is the number one killer. This is 4 decades and counting by long-term research data from the Small Business Administration to suggest this is the number one headwind for anybody trying to build a successful, viable business with staying power here in the U.S. Lack of understanding of who your market is. Then secondly, lack of a compelling why you. Why you? Why do business with you above all the other options out there, whether it be direct or indirect? Okay, those two things to me are actually connected at the hip. They're critical. They're absolutely critical if you're going to beat the odds and be one of those less than 3 in 10 that survive a 10-year anniversary in celebration of a successful business. Then tracking in at a close 3 is lack of adequate capitalization on the front end. I transitioned as a bank from the banking industry So I was a banking officer, and in 1998, I transitioned into our work with our center here at Clemson University, which is part of the South Carolina Small Business Development Center Consortium. I can tell you, the time to approach a lender, any lender, for capital is when you're is before you really need it. The worst time to approach is when your back is actually against the wall. So these are things that we just need to be aware of. And then in a distance fourth, but really consistent fourth, is inadequate management or leadership skills. Dr. Thomas, her teammates at SCORE, myself, my teammates at the Small Business Development Center, we work with folks all the time that have a tremendous amount of experience in their chosen industry, of which they're building a business. Maybe they're a master mechanic and they're looking to buy out their boss who's retiring, or they're looking to start, going to business for themselves. Maybe they're literally 10+ year medical physician, tired of corporate medicine, so starting their own practice. You may be literally experts in your field, but there may be some management or leadership blind spots, just things you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? So again, that could be an issue. So really, the small business development centers in SCORE were developed and are supported from a federal policy perspective to mitigate these issues on behalf of the for-profit small business sector here in the U.S. And do we do that? Do they do that just to be nice to you guys? No, you guys create you guys being the for-profit small business sector here in the U.S. create about 80% of the jobs we enjoy domestically. You also account for just south of 50% of all jobs we enjoy. So you're really important to the quality of life here in the U.S. And so from that perspective, SCORE and the SBDC, we really focus on providing guidance and support to you to help mitigate the odds. Most of that support is wrapped around no-cost guidance and mentorship, and then no or low-cost business training relevant to needs of small business managers and leaders and owners, and complementary resource referral or access. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. A little more as I drill in about our SBDC. Our South Carolina Small Business Development Center is actually part of a national network of accredited SBDCs. We were developed in the late 1970s. Our work is actually funded through a matching grant sponsored by the Small Business Administration. This is a matching grant. It requires an investment by the state of South Carolina, and we have since 1979 been here for you guys to lean on. To mitigate these headwinds, whether you're starting or growing a business, doesn't matter what life cycle you're in, we're here for you, quite frankly. So it requires a matching grant, and the state of South Carolina makes that happen. It being the matching grant, the federal grant that funds our work, requires a higher ed host with significant infrastructure to leverage expertise into the marketplace, to the practitioners, to you guys who are actually building the businesses. And I am proud, as my teammates are, to be associated with the Powers Family College of Business at Clemson University. Our Small Business Development Center is a center within the College of Business at Clemson University. In addition, we work hand in hand with our friends at SC State, University of South Carolina, and Winthrop, and together we comprise an official consortium that we brand as our South Carolina Small Business Development Center. Our Piedmont chapter of SCORE that covers the upstate of South Carolina. The SCORE team that Dr. Thomas is representing this evening is part of a national network as well. They're over 10,000 strong in numbers, and they're volunteers that are quite capable and experienced and dedicated to the support of small businesses throughout the U.S. Their organization is also administered through the Small Business Administration. Here's the headline. The SBDC and SCORE are not mutually exclusive. We're designed to work in concert to support you. What you may need from a mentor may be much different than what you need from a consultant. It may be very similar. At times, it may be exactly the same. But understand this, we would love to wrap all the support we can around you relative to our respective scopes of work as you guys work to assess the viability of starting a business. And if you jump into it, then support to actually build that business for yourself, your family, those folks you're serving, and any employees that you would embrace. So again, three objectives this evening. Drill in more about our SBDC and about our SCORE. So let's say we check the box on that. Where we're going to spend most of our time is our preferred approach to starting a business and kind of drilling in on the why. Well, we set up the problem earlier. Again, what are the key headwinds to starting a business? Lack of understanding or clarity around who the market actually is. And then lack of the ability to articulate successfully why you, what sets you apart as a business option for that specific target. Then lack of adequate capitalization. So those are really the top three. So look at our preferred approach. First of all, we say preliminary feasibility, low-hanging fruit. What can we pull together and have a conversation about sooner than later regarding those key factors? Who's the market? How are you actually going to set yourself apart from all the other options? Sometimes the conversation stops there. Okay, that's great. You owe us one if that's the case, because we may have saved you from significant from loss of savings, loss of time, loss of energy, and a ding in the credit score, right? So, okay, but let's say we can check those boxes. Then do we see actually a path to funding this? Because that third key headwind was what? Lack of adequate capitalization. If we can check the box on that, now we can move forward. That gets us into phase 2 work, development of a deeper dive plan. And then if you decide to move forward based on the clarity that you have, you're best positioned to make an adult decision on behalf of you and your family as you take on risks to start a business. And you may choose not to not start. So that's totally your decision. But hopefully working the process, it'll be more clear than it would otherwise. Therefore, mitigating those headwinds that would, in my estimation, shift those odds of less than 30% successfully starting, celebrating a 10-year, and keep you out of that 70% statistic. Either you'd be one that started it and really had clarity of what you're doing and how to go about that and make it happen, or just as important, perhaps, you may be you may remove yourself from one of the 7 in 10 that would have started otherwise, only to find it ain't going to work. Okay, either way is a success, in my estimation. And then build that business the right way over time as a strategic manager and strategic leader. So drilling in just a few minutes on each point, our preferred approach, first of all, preliminary feasibility. Is this the right fit for you, and is it the right time? It's just kind of a reality check, kind of awareness conversation. And again, Dr. Thomas, her teammates, my teammates and I, we work with a lot of folks expanding businesses, but we're also there for startups as well. And from a startup perspective, we may ask, why are you looking to start a business? We hear things, believe it or not, like, hey, Dr. Thomas, Ben, I'm tired of working 40 hours a week. So, man, I'm going to start a business and replace my full-time job. Well, we need to have a reality check around that. If you're tired of working 40 hours a week, well, how are you going to be working 60 hours a week? It's probably going to be, if you're going to build a full-time job, I've got news for you. It's going to be a full-time job. Okay. It's just as simple as that. If you're looking to build a side gig, that's a different proposition. If you're looking to maybe save a little expenses on a hobby by wrapping a business around it, that's a whole different proposition. But if you're looking to replace a full-time job, again, and you may say, hey, no, you understood me wrong. Really what I'm saying is I'm tired of working 40 hours a week for somebody else. I'd rather work 60 hours a week for myself. Okay, now we got something. This might actually be for you. And then it may be timing. Can you actually welcome risk, some measured risk into your life at this point? And sometimes you can. Sometimes it's like, ooh, got 3 kids in college or some heading. Probably want to part this till I get to an empty nest situation. So that's 3-4 years out. So I think what I'm going to do is keep kind of researching and learning a little more about it. That's fine. Time and place. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. So again, preliminary is kind of a reality check. And then we probe the idea. Is it something that you feel passionate about and why? And then is it something that seems to align with your skill set? These are things that we just kind of need to probe early, have a conversation around. And then does it appear by the low-hanging fruit market data that you could actually build a business around this idea and accomplish your personal goal of what you need to earn from the business? So all this is kind of handled up front. And really it's designed, in my estimation, to get you to a no in a hurry. Because if we can do that, we can save you some pain points. We can save you money, loss. We can save you on the credit hit, time and energy. If we can't, that's great. That's even better. Now we progress into a second phase, deeper dive, collaborative work. And that's, we lean on the business plan to do that. Really drill in with a market study and support you through in a collaborative manner through the process. Very in-depth market study, then financial modeling based on that market data to validate you could build a sustainable business that meets your goals personally and sustains the business cost, right? Marketing plan will be a piece of this. All this is wrapped around or rolled into a collaborative business plan or a comprehensive business plan. And we approach it in a collaborative manner through the planning process. The values in the planning, not necessarily the deliverable, but the values in the planning. So therefore, it has to be collaborative. We don't write your business plan for you. My friends at SCORE won't write your business plan for you. There's no value to you in that. There's no value. You can actually go online and hire people to write your plan. What value is that to you? The values in the process of collaboratively working through the process of developing a plan that checks feasibility points along the way. All right. Now, do we really have clarity on who the market is? Do we really have clarity now through the planning process in a collaborative manner of how you're going to set yourself apart based on the competitive landscape? Do we really have clarity now on your path to being funded 100% before you implement? Okay. So that's the process, the values in the planning to you in a collaborative manner. Then if you feel like, okay, we measured twice, now I'm moving forward. This is for me. It's for me. It's the right fit for me. It's the right time for me. And I have a viable plan I'm extremely confident in if I can execute. We know the numbers work if I can execute and drive that level of demand and hold that that budget set, those budget expenditures in check. It works. That to me is phase 3 level work, launch of the business. Then we would work with you through developing pre-launch activities. There's just a rational sequence of which things need to be done. For example, first thing at that point, not before, but at that point, to me, then you would establish the right legal entity for you. And then you would, as an agent of the legal entity, you would open your business checking accounts, your business merchant service accounts. Okay, whatever, any additional accounts that you would need with the bank, but definitely business checking at minimal. And if you're engaged in anything that needs to accept Visa or comparable to be competitive, you're going to need to establish that merchant service account at that time. And then, you know, you've got some stuff working in parallel, development of the marketing collateral, the digital marketing infrastructure, those types of things. Then maybe there's some staffing development going on, some training. So that's in kind of in parallel. Eventually, you work through the pre-launch activities, and toward the back end, you're going to see a soft launch. Our suggestion is don't open the spigot full bore initially. Soft, just crack it a little and put a little pressure on it and see if there's any leaks. And if they are, it gives you a chance to fix those before you open full bore and go full launch. Simple as that. Then monitor and refine as you go. The iconic boxing champion, Hall of Famer Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan till you get hit in the mouth. Well, you got a plan, but honestly, you're going to need to monitor and refine that from an entry strategy standpoint a lot more often than you are once you're established. Okay. And market conditions never cease. So even once you're established and healthy, existing business, you're going to still need to pause at least once a year to listen to the market, listen to conditions, and adjust, monitor, and refine. But at this stage, it's going to be much more frequently. Guess what? My teammates at the SBDC, my friends at SCORE, we're still here with you. We're not just here with you through startup. As a matter of fact, at the SBDC, most of our clients are existing healthy businesses that are expanding. And we're here for startups as well, no matter where you are in the process. So again, this process will serve you, it'll serve you well. And let's say you move forward and start your business. Guess what? This is the same process we advocate for expanding a business, no matter how long you've been in business. Take each expansion opportunity that you feel like has risen to the top and you're ready to move on. We're going to work it through this process. Measure twice, cut once. Okay, makes sense, right? Makes sense, because each will stand on its own merit as an opportunity in sync with what you're doing. If you move forward, this is not part of the startup process, but I do want to mention it again, planting a seed with you, because if you move forward and start a business, it's going to be probably 2, 3, could be up to 5 years out, but probably around 3 years. The market will have spoken. The dust has settled. You're in it. And you've monitored and refined. You're feeling really good about it. Guess what? We want to really encourage you to be a strategic manager and strategic leader of your business as you grow it. So we will work with you through the strategic management process to drive scale growth, and also at least once a year to step back and work on your business with us at least once a year through an annual strategic assessment. Not be locked inside of it 365 days. Okay. But at least once a year, back up, be the entrepreneur, the owner, and work on the business. And then the other time you're in the business working, right? So totally different mindset. So again, we had three objectives in our time together this evening. First, we talked about a little more about who we are and what we do at our South Carolina Small Business Development Centers in general, and our Clemson Small Business Development Center in particular. And also relative to our friends at Piedmont chapter of SCORE. Secondly, we said we want to cover the process we advocate for starting a business and why. And now that leads us to the third third objective for the evening is kind of teeing up. How do you move forward and work with us relative to the process that we advocate? Well, it's as simple as 1, 2, 3. If starting a business remains a viable option for you at this point, based on our discussion here this evening, simply respond to a prompted email recap from our friends at SCORE. As Dr. Thomas mentioned, you should get that recap likely within a couple of business days, if not sooner. And that'll facilitate your request for no-cost support. Your lead contact, then, if you follow that guidance of the recap email, they will be an established assigned lead contact that's going to connect with you and lead you through the process. Okay. And again, whether that lead is with our friends at SCORE or with my teammates at the SBDC, again, don't forget, we're not mutually exclusive. So, if you're working with SCORE and then eventually, you're getting to a point where you say, yeah, this thing, it's going to happen. Just remind your friends at SCORE that, our SBDC may be able to wrap some additional love and support around you. Not that they would go away. We would just be there in support. And that happens both ways. It'll happen vice versa. If you're working with an SBDC, it looks like this thing's moving forward. Again, general reminder if you need to, hey, what about our friends at SCORE? Can we loop them in? I need all the help and love I can get. Absolutely. That would be my suggestion to you. Hopefully that'll happen organically. But if not, again, you're the entrepreneur. Make it happen, right? Make it happen. So with that said, Dr. Thomas, kind of ask you to come back in at this point. Let's see if we've got any comments or questions. Guys, if you can, you're welcome to unmute and, chime in, if you're able to do that. If not, just key up on the chat any questions you might have. And we'll clear those out in our time together. And if you don't, that's okay too. You're ready to go. Hopefully you got what you came for. So any questions?
I don't see any questions, Ben, but while they are thinking through if they have questions, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you. Thank you again for a good presentation. And I know everybody has learned a lot. We'll just wait for a few minutes to see if there are questions.
Fantastic. Hey, my timing, the time shift got me a little bit. So get a little dark on me out, but I was sharing with Dr. Thomas earlier. I've been in Clemson at my office all day. So I really tried to get home and, gosh, it was 78 degrees today. So I was looking forward to getting outside. So I just kind of set up my station on the deck and yeah, I figured it might get dark. I apologize about the lighting. It's, but I can tell you it's really nice out here. Better than being inside.
Yep. There is one. Where do we need to register a business?
Where do we need to register a business? Appreciate the question. So my suggestion, again, that's really in phase 3 work. And that answer could be different depending on what type of business it is. But I'll say that to say Secretary of State's office is a likely. But I would encourage you, don't do that yet. Work through the process to make sure this is something that you can get full funding behind. Get the funding commitments, because what happens is you start registering a business and doing some things like that. If you don't get that 100% funding behind you, guess what? You got to go back and undo all that stuff. And usually there could be a fee for registering, and then there's a fee to disorganize that. So again, I would encourage you, but in general, South Carolina Secretary of State does some registrations of businesses. It depends. There may be some types of business, depending on what you're doing, in which you need to register with DHEC from a regulatory perspective. Most counties have gotten away from registering a business. All of them, 100% of the 46 counties in South Carolina used to would register a business as a matter of record at a county level. A lot of them, honestly, have gotten away from that. But again, it just depends on the business. So so that's the answer, the short answer. The more expanded is, I suggest table that, work through the process. Your mentor, your SCORE mentor and our SBDC lead consultant, as part of the process, actually will hold your hands and guide you and put the prompts in front of you of, where to link in and register, and such that you understand all the entities you need to register with, because it's different from one business type to another. Okay.
So one of the questions, I think it's a follow-up on this first question. The question says, what is an LLC and do you need one to start a business?
What is a what?
An LLC, limited liability.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. What is an LLC? An LLC is a limited liability company. It was created, gosh, I was going to say fairly recently, but that's not true now. It's been a couple decades, but and the case law is pretty much settled. So it's a stable, viable option, honestly, that a lot of small business folks lean into. But it allows you to compartmentalize. If you're really a small player, it would allow you to compartmentalize the business from personal assets. So if you actually start the business and you don't set up a separate legal entity in the US, by default, you become a sole proprietorship. And legally, what that means is the business is just an extension of your personal entity, defined by your Social Security number. So if anything associated with that business enterprise is found liable, so there's exposure there. So maybe you didn't do anything wrong, but an employee, right? So all of a sudden you get a judgment. It doesn't stop with the business. It's part of your personal entity. So judgment coming, exposure, civil exposure relative to the business is personal exposure against your house, future earnings, whatever. A lot of folks aren't comfortable with that. And so, if they actually get to a point where they're going to actually say, yes, I'm starting the business, I'm doing it, I've assessed it, I've worked through the feasibility progression, I've got my commitment to capital, I'm going forward. First thing at that point, that's in that phase 3 level work. If you guys recall, that's the activities planning. First thing then is to get your head around what's the best legal entity option for you. It may be a sole proprietorship if there's really little to no risk associated with what you're doing, but likely it would be in the form of a limited liability company or a subchapter S corp or a C corp. And there's a hybrid now, but that's something, again, your lead consultant can work you through time and place and let you see the options. And then you may or may not want additional really professional legal counsel around that, because it can be, you're trying to do two things. One is you're trying to compartmentalize and manage risk by establishing a separate legal entity other than your personal entity. And at the same time, you're trying to minimize tax exposure. And you've got that tax exposure on the near term, but also in capital gains if and when you actually sell the business. So it depends a little bit of that, and there's a give and take there. It might be on the horizon, how long out you're going to build this thing and sell in 5 years, 10, 20, 30. So again, kind of getting your head around it at the right time, but that's not that difficult. It's just time and place. I'd focus on making sure this thing is viable, the plan is feasible, you've got a game plan you can win by, and get you into that 30% that can celebrate a 10-year. And then we shift into phase 3 hand holding, starting with the legal entity. having conversation around that and get such that you're ready to go. Okay.
Thank you, Ben. One question which we have is in the preliminary feasibility assessment phase, do you help acquire necessary information to see if there is a market for our ideas?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And in the preliminary feasibility, what I'd suggest for you guys is, find out whatever you can on your own. Typically, it's a lot easier now with Google. So I'd say Google search things and see what's out there and, see what it looks like. And honestly, your score mentor, as you guys are comparing notes through that feasibility, that part of the work, that front end low hanging fruit, and your SBDC, there's market intelligence that we can pull down and share with you. So yeah, it's a collaborative effort. It's a collaborative effort. There may be things that you know about it, given you have an interest in this, you've probably been thinking about it a while and researching it a while. But I'd say, collect low hanging fruit. And we will provide some general industry outlook and some general data and that type of thing too at phase one work. And then if it appears it's there, we'll actually do a much more deeper dive, that really drills in. But so we do it this way because honestly, if you find out in phase one work, and we all agree, and you're the decision maker, honestly, at the end of the day, if we all agree, hey, this ain't gonna work. It's not what I thought it was. Okay. And I'll give you an example. I had a client years ago called me. I happened to be on vacation. I was down in Charleston on King Street. I never will forget it. My wife and girlfriend were shopping in one of the shops at King Street. And I was hanging out with my friend, her husband, on the corner waiting for them to come out of the shop so we could go down the sidewalk 10 paces, stop beside the next shop, right? And we do this till lunchtime. So I don't know, it's supposed to be fun. But at any rate, client calls me, longtime client, it's got a viable business. And he said, hey, man, I just had an idea. I'm thinking about, if a person is sight challenged, maybe you have some technology on the cane such that it actually kind of reads if there's something there, coming up 2-3 feet before you get to where you can actually feel, that goes off. Well, preliminary feasibility, it didn't take long jumping on Google to figure out that it's already out there. Okay, so it's not new. And so once he understood that and saw who the market players was, it wasn't anything he really wanted to divert. He thought it was a very unique idea. So that got to know in a hurry. Okay. So again, it's whatever you can pull together. And then honestly, there's stuff that we can send you, latest industry outlooks and stuff like that. We have licensed access to some market intelligence that you likely wouldn't have. The other source I'd suggest for all of you is hit your local library up. There's a Reference USA, but what I would do is ask the reference librarian at your public library to help you find resources that they would have that would help you kind of do some market research around this idea, starting a business, doing what. And you'll be shocked at how much they can empower you to pull together. But you're not on your own. This is just a getting started point, right? Low hanging fruit, phase one.
Thank you, Ben. The next one is, how do we know if we need a business license for our business in SC, South Carolina?
Yeah, it's very simple. Again, that's a phase 3 level work. So I encourage you guys, you may feel like, hey, Ben, I got phase 1 and 2 locked down. I'm good to go. I'm ready to move forward. But again, I came out of the banking industry and I worked with small businesses there, and I saw, I saw what happens when they fail sometimes. Depends on how much you got into it. And I've been doing this work since 1998, and you know, I've seen people take it on the chin. I encourage you to work through the process, mitigate those odds as much as you can. But at that point, if you're ready to move forward, I'd say do that with a SCORE mentor and an SBDC counselor, you know, with you, guiding you each step of the way. And likely they will put in front of you the South Carolina Business One Stop platform. It was developed by the Secretary of State's office here in South Carolina in concert with our friends at the South Carolina Department of Commerce. And it continues to be maintained by our friends at South Carolina Department of Commerce. It's scbos.com will actually get you to the new link. It's a 9-step process to starting a business in South Carolina. And what you're going to find is you work through the process, the 9 steps, and you just click on those. When you get to, it'll walk you through everything you need to do. So there's no entity that you would need to register with or obtain a license from based on your type of business that wouldn't be put in front of you if you utilize that scbos.com link to the South Carolina Business One Stop. That's the easiest, that's the best way to do it. And the reason I say that, because the platform, you're going to do the inputs, it's going to know what kind of business you got. So, you know, if you're a retail business, you're going to need a retail license. If you're a restaurant and you're selling beer and wine, you're going to need a retail license, and you're going to need a different license for the beer and wine, right? And if you're selling spirits as a restaurant, you're going to need yet a different type. So again, I'd work through the process. I'd take advantage. I mean, we're a resource here funded to support you. I'd encourage you to do that. But I ask my teammates really to lean on that SCBOS, get all of it in front of the client. It's all there. And then, you know, literally that's maintained by South Carolina Department of Commerce. So I'm thinking they got their hands around the latest. This stuff changes, right? So that kind of Ben proofs it, right? So, you know, let's do it that way. That's what I would do. That's what I would do.
Thank you. The next question, the attendee says that they are an LLC and their mentor has suggested that they transition to a nonprofit. They have an LLC bank account and registered name/tax ID number, and they have just started working on the application. What is the order of the bank account and tax ID number? Do we have to wait until we hear back from our application? We know that it will take months to hear back.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And I don't really know the answer to that. So if I'm understanding correctly, you're established as an LLC and you've got guidance to transition that entity into a nonprofit rather than disorganizing that and starting over. And that's not a maneuver that I've been involved in. So I'm gonna, worst thing I can do is share, share my thoughts on something I don't know anything about. I've never made that maneuver. I'm not, so I'm going to yield. And I just don't want to, I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction. So I apologize. There's nothing I can't speak to that. I just can't speak to it.
That's fair. Thank you. Then there is another one which is about do you need an operating agreement? I am thinking it should be with respect to their business. And did you want to comment on that?
Sure. It depends on the context. If you're a single member LLC or sole proprietorship, you do not necessarily need an operating agreement. If you're involved in a partnership agreement, whether it's structured as a multi-member LLC or otherwise, then Secretary of State's office is likely going to require one. And even if they don't, even if they don't require it, I strongly encourage you to have one. I would never engage in a partnership without a partnership agreement. And honestly, that would, to me, also include operational components. And so the operating agreement piece of it, to me, would be absolutely critical to the terms of a partnership in general. States, I'd want to know if Dr. Thomas and I were going into a partnership together, even beyond the who's putting what in and, what percentage of ownership do you share, I'd really want to know, all right, what are you going to do? What is your role in the operations of this thing? And I'm sure, Dr. Thomas, you'd want to know, all right, well, I want to know what you're going to be doing, right? To me, it makes sense to have that articulated if it's somebody, again, in an ownership position other than yourself. If you're the sole owner, that's typically not anything that I've ever seen required in any context. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The last one is, how do our attendees make an appointment with you? Through email, or is it through website? Or are there appointments with SBDC in person or Zoom, or or phone? I know
Yeah.
the answer to it, but I'll let you
Yeah.
answer it, Ben.
Sure. It's the, again, what I strongly suggest is, you came through this program. It's actually going to save you a few steps. So I'd say pounce on the email recap that's coming from our friends at SCORE, such that you've already paid it up front and spent this amount of time with us. I'd pounce on that. I think that's going to give you the guidance to actually then be accepted and assigned a mentor at SCORE. And what I would share with the mentor at SCORE is, hey, I got a chance to, meet Ben at the SBDC. I'd really, feel like they can probably, again, put another set of eyes around us and another set of arms around us and help us work forward. And they can make that happen. They can make that happen. And if for some reason, it doesn't line up the way you feel like it should, just reach out to me. You see my email is on the screen now as I'm sharing. It's just benny.s@clemson.edu. You can reach out to me, or would probably be the easiest thing. The other option is, you could jump straight into the website here. This is scsbdc.com, and it'll prompt you to request consulting support. And it would then align you with my closest teammate to you. And it triggers that automatically. And, but what I would do, if you jump into that, you want to let them know, hey, man, I've been, I worked with Dr. Thomas and Ben, for a couple hours already. I'm past the introductory part. I'm ready to move forward, because I wouldn't want you to have to go through this again. Right. Less of me and more of the next folks in line to help you is probably better for you. But either's an option. Either's an option.
Thank you.
And hey, I'd take the chance to say this to you guys that are still on the call. Spending this time together with us, it actually expedites. It expedites you in the process. And I say that because if you didn't do this, it may take you 2 weeks or whatever that wait time is to, actually get a one-on-one with a SCORE mentor or an SBDC consultant. And really, this is what they're going to cover. They got to give you, the background of who they are, what they do and why, and they need to lay out the process they advocate and why, and get everybody on the same page. And this is, so, we're expediting you is one way to think about it. Yeah.
Thank you, Ben. I think we covered all the questions. I don't see any additional questions coming up. So thank you. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this webinar, and wishing you a very good night.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.